The Imaginary is a 2024 horror mystery thriller film which revolves around the character of the Jessica. And at the first point of time, we see very random creature and very random scene and sightings that have no connection with anything actually. At first point, if we see that, and later we came to know that these are all the vivid nightmarish thing that the character of the Jessica sees. So here now the story just begins with the introduction of the character of the Jessica, and which is played by Devanda Weiss, which is a successful children's books author, as we have as it is shown in the story of this movie, which is returning to her childhood home with her husband, that is Max, and the character of the Max is played by Tom Payne, and they have two daughters from a previous marriage actually. So Taylor and Alice. Now the house I think is just more than a building at this point of time. It is just a repository of Jessica's long buried fears and memories. Though she has worked hard to past move them, and Alice is the younger and the more impressionable daughter, and is the most affected by the move actually. So she's just struggling with the feelings of isolation and being alone and kind of left out also in this new environment that she is now. And she explores the attic one afternoon, and just she stumbles upon one very peculiar teddy bear which is very dusty, which is very old and rugged type of teddy bear that we have seen. I think our grandpa and all the family members just they bought I think this kind of teddy bear in the early 90s or 80s. So that kind of teddy bear, so the teddy is right here dusty, frayed, and it's just having a very oddly unsettling of themes and vibes. And she named it John C. I don't know how to pronounce the actual name, so we would call it teddy bear as well. And instantly forms an attachment to it, claiming it speaks to her. And to Jessica, the teddy bear just looks familiar, but she brushes off the discomfort. At first glance, we see that Chauncey just seems harmless. The teddy bear actually, the Alice and Alice talks to the bear, including it in a family conversation, and even insist on a seat for Chauncey at a dinner table. These moments are tingled with a very unsettling undertone as the camera just occasionally lingers on the bear's empty eyes, almost hinting that it's observing its surrounding. As we can see that when we just look at her, I think it reminds me of the Annabelle doll or that Annabelle movie revolving around it. So kind of very similar because those eyes just are seeing. I think that is what I see when I first saw the movie. So that is strange, and things take a very dark turn. When Alice begins behaving oddly, she starts to isolate herself and whispering to Chauncey in her room late at night while all were sleeping at that point of time. And she becomes just aggressive when anyone begins questioning about her behavior, and particularly Taylor, who mocks the idea of an imaginary friend. So that is what the title of the movie is. That is inspired from this so-called imaginary friend, and strange incident does escalate and a very vast shatters on its own. So here Alice is heard laughing in the middle of the night even though no one else is in her room, and we can see that Jessica just grows increasingly concerned, and her unease isn't just about Alice or but she begins experiencing vivid nightmare as well. In one, she sees herself as a child and clutching the same teddy bear, while her father Ben, a man battling mental illness, watches from the shadows, muttering incomprehensibly, and we cannot hear what the hell he is muttering. So that is what muttering is, speaking unnecessary word. And this dream just grows more intense and kind of feel like hallucination or something real that is happening with her. So it kinds of blends her childhood fears with the present day menace of the teddy bear that is Chauncey. And now we see the family's neighbor, that is Gloria, played by Betty Buckley. So becomes a very pivotal figure in the story. Gloria is a very reclusive and but very kind of elderly woman which notices Jessica's distress and the odd behavior, and she's just not by the nature who she used to be, and that is just observed by the neighbor too, and offers very cryptic advice about the dangers of imaginary friend. And she tells Jessica about a local legend of a very abandoned friend, that is the abandoned imaginary friends, being that take on a life of their own who had forgotten or just suppressed. Gloria revealed that imaginary friends are not just filaments of imagination, but they are the entities themselves that thrive on the emotion of the creator, that just use the emotion like fear and grief, so and loneliness too. And if they are neglected, they turn into very vengeful forces that are not just unstoppable, kind of a very huge and malignant forces, and uh, so seeking to reclaim their place in the lives of those who just abandoned them. And now Jessica just dismisses them at the first sight and didn't think much of it for the first time, and but cannot shake the sense that the teddy bear or the Chauncey is just more than just a toy, because she just suspects that it is just more than him, more than the toy itself. It has something that is not from this world, or she just senses that. And we can also see on her face and expression on the moment she's doing that, and she's suspecting every time something unexpected may happen out of nowhere. Jessica just begins to piece together fragments of her childhood. She recalls her own imaginary friend and a bear called Chauncey, and who comforted her during her father's breakdown. When her father's mental illness worsened, we see that Jessica just distanced herself from the teddy bear, that the Chauncey, blaming that bear for her fears. And now it seems that Chauncey has returned, angrier than ever, menacing than ever, and more harmful, dangerous, and evil than before. Meanwhile, Alice became increasingly withdrawn, and her bond with Chauncey just intensifying, and she began just drawing disturbing pictures of the bear, portraying it with very sharp teeth and the glowing eyes. And Jessica finds one of the Alice drawing where Chauncey just looms over a child with the words "best friends forever" and scrawled beneath it in a very jagged handwriting. And we also see in some of the scenes that they are, so the contact is made by Jessica to see whether the psychological condition of Alice is very well or not, and the doctor just come in, and there were some of the bit of the piece of information that were exchanged between the doctor and the small daughter, that is the Alice we see here. So this is the one of the scenes where it intensifies that she's also not sure that whether it is real or not. And Taylor, which is the older daughter, initially just dismissive of the situation, but now she just realizes or start to just believe that she experiences Chauncey's presence herself. And one night she hears faint whispering in the hallway and follows it to the attic, and where she sees a shadow just move on its own, and that was accompanied by the sound of a children's laughter. But the turning point, I think, arrives when the Alice vanishes after a very heated argument with Jessica and Taylor, and Jessica finds a note in the Alice room and written in a childlike scrawl that she is mine now. And Gloria helps Jessica and Taylor perform a ritual to enter the never ever a realm of where abandoned imaginary friends reside, a kind of very ghostly world that is just present beyond our human world. So kind of connecting between them, so they can enter that passage or that world. And the never ever is just a visually striking, a very dark, very surreal landscape with a distorted version of childhood memories. And it is a place where time and reality bend, some kind of sci-fi shit going on right here, and filled with very airy and half-finished toys, crumbling tree houses, some very disturbing imagery, and faint whispers that just echoes through the air. And the production design just emphasizes the psychological horror, the thriller element, the tension element, with every object representing a fragment of the Jessica's childhood fear that once she had, or even maybe she is carrying with her, or maybe she would carry herself with for a very longer period of time. And as Jessica and Taylor journeys through the never ever, this hallway or the passage, they face the horrifying manifestation of their own anxieties, their own deepest level desire, or their own deepest fear that have haunted them for a very long period of time. And Jessica just encounters a very monstrous version of Simon, that is the what you can say, the expanded or the enlarged version of the teddy bear. So the spider character from her books, oh sorry, this is the spider character from her books, and who taught her about her failure as a mother and a daughter. And Taylor meanwhile just confronts shadowy versions of herself, representing her insecurities about just being in a blended. And they finally find Alice now fully under the teddy bear's control, and Chauncey has transformed into a very grotesque creature, part bear, part monster. So having a very part bear and part monster body, and grown into a very large size monster here, with glowing red eyes and a voice that echoes like a growl. And he accuses Jessica of abandoning him and declared that he will not let her live again, and just trying to rebattle again. And the battle is just not only physical, and here we see that that is also psychological, or the battle that is present mentally. Jessica tries to reason with the Chauncey, apologizing for leaving him behind, but he refuses to relent. And Gloria sacrifices herself to weaken Chauncey, allowing Jessica and Taylor to rescue Alice. The climax revolves around Jessica's acceptance of her past. She acknowledges her father's illness and forgives herself for the fear she felt once she was a child at that time. But by confronting the traumas her traumas head on. She just strips Chauncey of his power, causing the never ever that pathway to collapse, and the family escapes it just in the time. We see back in the real world, the house just seemed peaceful again after this chaotic thing that had just happened. That had just happened, where Jessica and Taylor just gone through that back never ever passageway. Jessica begins writing a new book inspired by her journey, hoping to heal through her art whatever has happened, and just express her viewpoint through the book. And the family appears closer than ever, united by their ordeal. But however, the final scene just leaves a chilling ambiguity, and the ambiguity just states that here we find the note under a pillow written in Chauncey's family handwriting, "I'll be always be there." So you never know, this kind of haunting spirit or this kind of doll just never, they just never go. They are always with you in some kind of form or the other thing. And the camera just lingers on Alice's expression as the screen fades to black, leaving viewers to wonder if Chauncey's influence truly ended or if he's just merely living dormant, waiting for another chance to return. And after this all incident, they are just back to home, and here we see another boy sitting on the sofa, and there is also teddy bear on the back of it, and that is very very similar to Chauncey. So here it also hints that he's not gone completely, but he may exist in another dimension, another form in the same world, and he's just ready to take the second chance to just hurt the family and continue his terror of reign or the reign of terror. So that is what the Chauncey's ultimate aim or goal is. So this is how the movie ends, and the movie I think was generally good for most part of the time. And the pacing of the movie was sometimes just I felt awful because most of the things just came suddenly that I was not expecting, especially the nightmares, nightmare scenes, and the visually disturbing scenes or the fight scene that were, I think, not much of the comprehended with the storyline. I think it just felt little below the bar. But the director of the film, that is the Jeff Fadlow, I think its imaginary attempts to just blend the psychological element with the supernatural element, and it just offer a visually very haunting, but I think yet narratively uneven experience. And the film just tackles intriguing themes like, especially that things that just felt like what's especially the childhood trauma and the familiar bond. It struggles with pacing and predictability, and I think it just leaves audience divided on its impacts. Especially film just I think banks on with the department of the visuals and atmosphere it has set, because it is a horror mystery thriller film, and you just expect it to be like that in a certain way because the theme or the genre is just said to be in a certain way, so you have to match it. And the film's standout element is its visual design. Particularly we see the ending pathway, that is the never ever real, the realm or the reality, the surreal, the dreamlike, the nightmarish world is just both, I think, unsettling and captivating at the same time. And we see that is filled with the nightmarish landscape that reflect the characters' fears, and Dee Vanda Weiss that delivers a very, I think, powerful performance, both as a very kind of a very brave lady and the mother in this film. And also she is portrayed a very strong woman grappling with her past while trying to protect her family. So I think it is very commendable job done by her. And the film's exploration of the unresolved childhood trauma and the darker side of imagination, I think, just gives its emotional weight. And Jessica's journey of self-discovery and redemption just add a very depth layer to this film, add a very depth context to the film, making it more than just a typical horror film. And Chauncey's transformation from a friendly, I think, friendly teddy bear, this is the, I think, main part of the movie, to a grotesque monster is genuinely chilling. At the end point of time, we see that in that never ever realm of reality or that nightmarish thing, his design and voice just works effectively evoke fear, making him a very memorable antagonist. And you should like, I think, predictable story, and especially if I talk about the jump scare that are effective at some point of time, but later they are overused, and seasoned horror fans, I think, may find the plot twist predictable. Pacing issue, as I said, because the first of the movie is slow paced and focus heavy on setting up the family dynamic and whole set up the story, that how it will continue to the second half of the movie. While it builds tension, but it may, I think, test the patience of audience like you and me. And I think one of the key element that movie just I think do not focuses, or just it is left behind, that is the character of the Max, that is the Jessica's husband. And also Gloria, I think she played a very pivotal role, and but feels like I think she need to be given even more space. But I think it was enough. If maybe given more space or the more character depth, so it could have been a more judgmental thing. But yeah, while I think some may appreciate the open-ended conclusion, but others may find it frustrating as usual because there is no sudden ending. There is no actually accurate ending of the movie. So I think movie was good and it's a decent watch if you're just having nothing to work on and it's just a weekend free for you. So I think it's I think near about 1 hour 44 minutes film. So I think it's a one time decent watchable film. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more. For such kind of movie breakdowns and movie explains, Cinema Shadows always will be always present, and we will try to deliver one videos per week.